Hi, welcome to Salt and Burn This. I'm Sami.
And I'm Valerie.
And this is our Supernatural Rewatch podcast.
Each week, we're going to break down an episode in order with lots of details, so nothing's left out.
And we throw in some personal nuggets and stories and research to mix it up just a little bit.
Because not only are we fans of the show, but like Sam and Dean, we've also had our fill of road trips.
Yeah, but for theater, not for hunting ghosts and demons.
And not in a super sexy muscle car.
Anyway, shall we?
We shall.
Okay, everyone, we have a special guest with us today. I'm very excited. I mentioned him last time. It's my friend Charlie. Hi, Charlie.
Hey, guys.
Hi, Charlie.
Thanks for having me.
I wish we had one of those like sound cue buttons, like cue the applause.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, yay!
Maybe if I remember, I'll insert one afterward.
Because there was a lag, so we're good. So,
So I know Charlie from ye olden days of high school.
Just yesterday.
Yes. But then there were like many years, right, where didn't talk to you at all. And then you hopped up into social media and you were like, hey, friend. And I was like, yes, I'm on board with this.
I mean, thank God for Facebook. I think that's what everybody says, right? So, absolutely.
Yeah, nothing bad to say about Facebook whatsoever.
Not a word.
Oh my gosh. So you guys went to the same high school?
Yes. In Kansas.
In Kansas.
In Kansas, not Oklahoma. And I
Out
did
west.
go to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's not out. Okay.
It's west from here.
Yes, it is.
Mm-hmm.
And from here, you're in Tennessee, right?
I'm in Tennessee. I've wanted to live east of Kansas for years just so I could say, oh, out west. Kansas.
Well, now you've done it.
I've done it.
Good job. Good job. I love Tennessee. Tennessee is beautiful. It's just a freaking long state to drive across.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Always. You're always driving through Tennessee. There is no, oh, phew, we're out of Tennessee. Nope, more Tennessee.
Yeah, I don't recommend driving in Tennessee. It's the worst.
Okay, so I know I used you for your theology knowledge last time, but you are, a fan of the show?
I am. So I think I got back into it. I think I only watched it probably when I used to just travel for work and it was on. And I knew Jared from, I'm a big Gilmore Girls fan. So,
okay.
and I think I'm blanking on his name, of course, because I'm on the spot. Jensen. So he's the voice of Superman in some things. And there's rumors he might be a Superman, like live action. Maybe they'll do like a multiverse stuff or something.
Batman.
Yeah, it was Batman, right?
Batman. That's right. Batman. Yeah. So I'm big fans of Jared just because of Gilmore Girls. So anytime I was traveling and I didn't have cable, I would watch it and be like, oh yeah,
it's that show with the guys in the motel rooms.
And I'm in a hotel room watching them in a motel room. So
that's the exact same way I got into it. The exact same way.
So it works, obviously. So
yeah,
keep paying for the reruns on CW, I guess. So
yeah,
is there even a CW anymore? I don't know.
They're on TNT.
TNT.
Yes, they do like little mini marathons during the day on TNT. That's where they are housed now. So did you watch, was it kind of just skipping around, like catch it whenever you saw, like you didn't really have like a chronological storyline?
I would always wonder like how I would kind of know I was in later seasons just by how long Jared's hair was getting.
how long his forehead was.
Right. So like if he still looked really young, like I was like, okay, so he's still doing both shows. And then like the longer it would get, I'm like, okay, so obviously Gilmore Girls is over. So just skipping around a lot. I don't think it was until I found out that Sami was doing this podcast with you and was like, well, I want to support a friend. So just kind of jumped back in. And then I wouldn't say it fully sucked me in because there's like, it's like any show, like there's lots of shows I like. There's lots of call outs done that I know Val's done on, hey, I know them from X-Files. I know them from from Stargate. And so like it's just kind of one of those comfort shows. I think you guys talked about that recently. Like, I don't want to learn a new show. I like
Yeah,
the shows I like. So there's a familiarity to it, even though I'm not all the way in it. So actually, so this is episode 21 of season 4. So this is I've started episode 22 when we rewatched for this episode. So that's really as far as I've gotten chronologically. So I don't know, other than just like spoilers on the internet and GIFs and memes and stuff, I don't actually know what's going to happen. So I'm kind of along for the ride, which is kind of fun.
Oh, that's good.
Okay, fun. Well, what I have, this one had a commentary episode, which I watched and took notes on. It was with Sarah Gamble and Bob Singer, the writer and director of this episode.
Nice.
Lots of fun little juicy things that they talked about. Season 4, episode 21, When the Levee Breaks. Dean and Bobby have something frightening locked in Bobby's panic room. Sam, contaminated by demon blood. But as the apocalypse draws nearer, Bobby wants to free Sam to battle on their side. Written by Sarah Gamble and directed by Bobby Singer. Robert Singer, not
Bobby.
Not Jim Beaver, Bobby Singer.
Not that Bobby. Yeah.
Contaminated, huh? It makes it sound like he got rolled in something. So as I usually do, I have to look up the title of the show, When the Levee Breaks, which is pretty much a double entendre, of course, because, when the levee breaks, everything's going to come flowing out. But it's a Led Zeppelin song, which I did not know, and I listened to it, and I did not recognize it.
Oh.
Yeah. Your Alexa is talking.
Oh, my.
Yeah, not now, Siri.
Alexa is really into Led Zeppelin.
Led Zeppelin, yeah.
Yes. But the song was originally written in 1929 by Kansas Joe McCoy and Memphis Minnie about the levees breaking in Mississippi, the Great Mississippi Flood, which is to this day still the most devastating flood in the United States. And it's like all of the levees failed, for 30 days. 30 days of flooding. So that's what the song is about, when the levee breaks. But then Led Zeppelin kind of got permission to cover the song, but Kansas Joe and Memphis Minnie didn't get any royalties. They didn't get anything from Led Zeppelin. So I was a little disappointed to read that. They did get recognition. They just didn't get any money for it. I'm just saying they didn't full out steal it. They had permission. So boo on Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
The song was also used in the closing credits of The Big Short. Did you guys see that movie?
No, I didn't.
It's the Steve Carell movie, right?
Yes, about when the housing market crashed. It's so good. It's so good. The only reason I know it is I literally just watched it 3 nights ago with my parents. And it was just one of those, look at all the names, because it's like Brad Pitt, Steve Carell, other big names that I can't remember right now.
Is there Cooper in it? Bradley Cooper's in it, I think. I don't remember. There's a lot.
There's a lot. There's a lot of big names, and it was a really well done show. But anyway, closing credits, and again, the big levee, when the levee breaks. So
it was a mashup.
It's your rendition of their rendition.
I just was like, I was fascinated that it was just, I just watched that movie. And, it was in that movie. So, the full circle, the personal touch.
That's weird. I have a weird full circle about that, but later, and it's not as fun. You'll see why.
And of course, this is also just a dead giveaway that this is not going to be a fun, feel good episode. Given the title, that brings us to then.
Yes, the recap.
It's the apocalypse. It's Anna. It's mom. It's Sam as a baby, and then as a boy. Sam saying, "I just want to be normal." Which clearly he hasn't been in a long time. It's
also Lucifer is going to break out of his cage. It's Dean saying to Sam, "If I didn't know you, I'd want to hunt you." And then Sam and his Jonesin era of like, "Ruby, I'm all out. I need it."
And then the final lockup scene where they close the door on Sam. They shut him into the panic room. So that's the then.
There's a lot in the then. And this is new too, right? Like the the end of the episode like showcasing what's going to happen?
Yeah, kind of. There's been at least one, maybe two, where they've done an official to be continued.
It's really sneaky because it's hard enough not to go into the next episode on Netflix, but then when it has, like, I don't really know where one's ending, and then the recaps kind of help you, like, well, maybe this is a flashback. So there's a lot happening up into this cage door shuts.
Yeah, the previous episode, it ended with next. You know,
that weird
clip
next
of
that didn't,
what's happening in the next
I still don't know why they did that.
I think I'm gonna say hands up for you saying they just didn't have a long enough episode, maybe. So they added to do a clip show at the end of
a clip show. That's what it was. It was like little mini clip show
at the end of that episode. So now we're in the now.
Yeah.
Sam is in the panic room, still locked up. It's not a dream. He is in there. And this, I want to say, there's some beautiful cinematography of how they showcased him in this tiny little panic room.
That little like red light above Sam and the blue light showering Dean.
Yeah.
Pretty on the nose, but still pretty.
Right, exactly. And then of course the shadow of the fan, there's like one vent fan at the top in the ceiling that's like not only bringing in what you think is minimal amount of outside air, but it's cutting the light that is coming into the dungeon into the panic room.
Well, kind of a dungeon, yeah.
So it's exactly like it is basically a dungeon.
It's churning, and you kind of hear the whoosh whoosh of this churning fan. It's not going fast, it's just barely limping along to give minimal amount of comfort, unfortunately, to Sam. And I just thought that was really beautiful.
Bob Singer, the director, he kept saying throughout this whole commentary, he's like, man, this room was so small to work in.
Yeah.
You know, he had to be really creative about how to use the camera. And when he does these crane shots sometimes that's coming up, it couldn't use like a traditional crane. He had to get like really creative about like using two pieces of something. And I don't know, he was using a lot of camera directorial terms that I'm not familiar with. But
right. There's another shot later on in the episode that really showcases, even though it's a teeny tiny room, Sam looks teeny tiny in it.
Yeah.
Because of how they shot it. And it's really, when we get to it, I'll mention it.
Yeah.
But so Sam is alone in this room. Dean is on the outside, on the other side of the door, and flips open the little eye slot. And Sam is still trying to reason with Dean. This is like, I'm not a drug addict. This is the worst intervention ever. You know?
Whereas Dean's like,
Yeah, you said that on the last episode. You're like, you called it an intervention, and then immediately that's what they're calling
what
it.
they called it. Yeah.
This isn't a drug addiction. It's clearly some sort of addiction. I mean, he's shaking, and then just all of the stuff in this episode. Several times I'm like, is this a hallucination? Is this a memory? Is this real? Is this not? Like, what's going on? Like, just so much weird stuff going on.
Is it a psychic moment? You know, we haven't seen his psychic powers in a long time, but, you know, we just never know with Sam what is actually reality. I also love that Dean in this moment, even though he's being very serious, he's like, you know, if it smells like a duck, you say it's not addiction. It smells like a duck.
I wrote that down too. Smells like a duck. I was like,
yes.
Dean's examples sometimes are just, he just mixes all of his metaphors together.
All those metaphors.
It's like this. It's kind of
it's mixed, but
not quite getting there. Quite. But no, Charlie, you make a good point that it was really discombobulating the entire time, which I do think was on purpose, and they did a great job of doing, especially coming up. After Dean like shuts the eye slot and goes upstairs, you know, like, nope, you gotta get dry. You're gonna get a bench warming seat on this apocalypse. Sucks to be you. Then Sam immediately starts to see these signs, like the ghosty signs of like the cold breath, the lights flickering on and off. And then he's like, oh my God, something's down here. And then he turns around and he sees Alistair, and you're like, what?
Yeah. And he's like full on Alistair. He's like, whatever am I going to do? You know, it's like, it's the voice, it's the mannerisms, it's him.
So I've been wanting to ask you guys about Alistair for a while, and I meant to ask Sammy about it months ago, like kind of when Alistair is our Stargate connection, by the way. Sorry, Sammy.
Sorry.
From at least from Stargate Atlantis. I think he played another role too earlier on. So he's kind of like on that X-Files thing where they just reuse people and hope that you don't notice. But is this actor doing like a Marlon Brando impression?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's kind of what it was. So he's the third.
The third, there was a pass by Alistair.
Right.
So there's the first one who was very much like
he kind of
Brando.
started the voice, you know, he kind of had this little lispy kind of thing going on.
Yep.
It wasn't quite as like gravelly, it wasn't quite like this, you know, but so then I think this Christopher Heyerdahl,
yeah.
I think he took that and ran with it. He was like, I like that choice and I'm just gonna really go with it. And when I first saw it, I was like, this is really, I can't even get with this. But then the more I was forced to listen to it, the more I was like, okay, I'm enjoying it. I like this choice.
We kind of came full circle on it. Yeah.
I'm similar because usually when I'm watching these, like I'm working, so I'm just having it on. And so like actually getting to really focus on it and see how he delivers it, it's so good, but it's so creepy. Like so polite
because
now.
he doesn't make excuses.
Like,
he doesn't make he doesn't make excuses for it.
Yeah.
It's slightly effeminate, but it's also, I dare you to tell me.
Yeah, I would say it particularly worked the last time we saw him, which I don't know, did you see this episode where he is tortured by Dean for a long time and then Sam ends up killing him?
And he kills Host too, right? Like he doesn't.
Oh yeah.
He doesn't demon
they're
pull him out
burned
or
to a
anything.
crisp.
Like crushed.
Yeah. So it was during that episode, I think, that I was like, okay, this is where that voice really works.
It just works.
But I also understand that it's a pretty stark Godfather impression.
Yes.
You know, it's like, oh, he's just doing the Godfather.
Right. But how many current watchers of Supernatural are familiar with the Godfather?
I think anybody who has not even seen the Godfather knows that that's the Godfather.
Okay.
Because I started watching the show before I had ever seen the Godfather, and I knew that was the Godfather.
The only reason I'm skeptical is because we also just recently somebody asked about one of our like currently viral videos clips is Dean saying, but you didn't shoot the deputy. So it's you know, I shot the sheriff, but you didn't shoot the deputy, but you didn't kill the deputy. And I've had people say, what is that from? And I'm like, oh, it was first a Bob Marley song and then Eric Clapton covered it. Yeah. And one of our viewers wrote back, I don't know either of them, so I guess I'll have to Google this. And
we're old.
Yes, that's the thing. So I said, chances are if you heard the song, you would recognize it. You'd be like, oh, it's that song. You may not know who sang it or who originated, but you would recognize it. But a part of me is like, I still automatically know who wrote it, who sang it, so yes, I'm old. And it's nothing against the fan base. It's against me being old. It's a slam against me.
It's not against anybody. Nothing wrong with getting old.
I have 3 pairs of glasses, Sammy, so getting old is hard. And
we're the same age, Charlie. Shut up.
Yeah, but my life experience, it just hurts. Everything hurts.
But thank you for telling me it's okay that I'm old. I appreciate that. All right, so
moving
Supernatural. So Dean, I wanted to mention that in Sam and Dean still talking to each other in the panic room, there's 2 very different points of view happening. Sam sees himself as self-sacrificing. He's drinking the blood of demons so he can become stronger to kill Lilith, even if it kills him or changes him. Whereas Dean sees it as a weakness. He sees Sam as weak because he can't exist without now. So he sees him as an addict, somebody who is jonesing, who can't exist without.
He calls Ruby poison in this episode. He calls the
Several
demon
times.
blood poison. Like, so he's clearly seeing, like you said, I think he's seeing Sam as weakening himself.
Yeah.
In his pursuits, right?
Right. Well, that's also slightly different, that he's weakening himself, not that he's weak. And I think there's a difference. And I like your version of it better. I would like to think that Dean doesn't think Sam is weak, but that he has been weakened because of the path he's taken.
We got to move on from this scene. I'm sorry.
All right. Title splash.
I do think it's funny that Bobby and Dean in this next scene, as he walks away from Sam's intervention, are pouring themselves drinks.
Yes.
So
Right.
it's funny that you're drinking at someone else's intervention, but
Oh my God, that is really
poison.
funny. I never even thought of that.
Yeah, and drinking hard.
Yeah, it's not
just
beer,
like
it's
no.
whiskey this time.
Yeah.
That is very funny.
So
I also like Bobby's sarcasm when Dean's like, are we doing the right thing? He's like, well, let me just check my, no one wrote a manual on demon detoxing.
right.
Idjit.
Right.
He didn't say idjit,
Idjit,
but
but he
it was implied.
But at the same time, we're hearing Sam screaming.
Yes, because he's being tortured by Alistair down there. But it was like another little twist. You think he's actually there, and he's gutting him with the scalpel, and he does that weird, like, I appreciate that.
Vivisection.
Yes, and he's in that same torture chair, so somehow the torture chair got in the
weird
thing.
With the strap
thing.
to keep the demon from smoking out. So it's the same table that Ruby was strapped to. Naked, by the way. Still a little disappointed that Sam was not naked.
I can imagine, yeah. No equality in the show.
But now we know.
But Sam wasn't actually there when she was being tortured, so how would he have known that she was naked? So
Right. And then we see, they do a quick little cut, and then you see, oh, this is all a hallucination. He's going to see a lot more throughout this episode.
yeah. So Sam is like, the camera cuts away and he's not actually strapped to that torture table. He's just in the cot, but he is, in his mind, he is strapped to this table. So he's still screaming as if he's being vivisected by Alistair, that he's, being drawn and quartered.
And this was Sarah. She was like, I really wanted to see what it would look like detoxing from a supernatural drug versus a regular drug. So like if you're in an iron room, that the demon blood inside of him is like really like
trying to escape.
Like getting affected by it. What would that do to you? And I have not ever withdrawn from heroin or crack, so I cannot personally say what the difference would be.
I'm going to have to say, I don't know.
I'm an ex-cop, so I've seen some people in some pretty bad ways. And
I've seen it. I know there's a lot of vomiting involved.
This looks worse.
The phone rings and it's Rufus.
So great. I love this call. I actually stopped it and went back so I could hear Bobby say it like 3 or 4 times.
Well, the fact that he says "some bitch," which is a total call out to Jackie Gleason. Jackie Gleason coined the phrase "some bitch," not "son of a bitch," but "some bitch."
Oh, from Smokey and the Bandit.
Oh, Smokey and the Bandit. Nice.
Yes.
I thought first I went to Honeymooners and I'm like, I don't think he ever said that in the Honeymooners.
Bang zoom, some bitch. To the moon, Alice. Some bitch.
We were watching the HBO version, I think.
Yeah.
So Bobby hangs up on Rufus.
Suck dirt and die.
Yes.
He's like, what's going on? And Bobby's like, he knows. Rufus knows what he did. But it turns out that Rufus actually has some dire information. And the dire information is that the seals are breaking all over the place.
Yes. So, hold on. Sarah, what did she say? Let me find where it is. Sarah said she had like such a long, ridiculous list of seals here for him to just rattle off.
All the things
they were
wrong.
So stupid. And Eric Kripke's like, you can't say these things. This is dumb. So what they ended up being were 10 species go extinct all at the same time. A 15-man fishing crew gets struck and blind, and a teacher kills 66 kids. Sarah wanted to do like nuns pull all their toes off. For the species extinction, she wanted very specific species of fish, just fish. The water in a river in a town in New York turned into the exact chemical composition of blood, not blood, but the exact chemical composition, which then would be blood. Which would be too big. It would be too big for a river to turn into blood.
And for people to not.
But the nuns pulling off their toes, I thought was pretty spectacular.
I think you'd have people go, wait, did she just say?
I don't know. A lot of nuns are pretty hardcore, so they might do that anyway.
Maybe.
So I was really hoping that when Rufus called back, I was really hoping for a minute that they would insert some of that supernatural humor. And it was like someone calling to see if Bobby wanted to give to the local charity or just some innocent person calling.
Oh, yeah. And then he just like cursed out somebody that was not Rufus. Yeah. So then Bobby tries to make the case for having a juiced up Sam in this fight. He's like, are you sure we should be detoxing him now? Like, couldn't we wait? I mean,
he's like, the apocalypse being nigh and
yes.
all. Like, he could be our loaded weapon. And Dean, of course, is completely against it.
Yeah, Dean even calls him a nuclear, like, oh, we should just unstrap him and let him be our nuclear weapon, right?
Right.
So just this practicality that's kind of creeping in,
Right.
which I had a note on later, but just everybody's trying to be practical. And I mean, even Dean's being practical. Like, it'd be better for him to be locked up than for him to be out. Sam wants to be out. It's practical for me to use the blood. Bobby's
Right.
like, it's practical for Sam to be out. Like, there's a lot of reasons why we should use this evil for good.
Evil for good.
Which is also kind of what Sam's argument has been this whole time.
Yeah. Yeah, which comes up in a minute.
Yeah, speaking of Sam.
He wakes up and sees himself as a kid.
Little Sam, yeah.
Little Sam is there. And so he starts having a conversation with himself as a kid, but it's more him as kid is giving him a rasher of shit for all the decisions
what
he's
did
made.
You do to us?
Yes. It's like, that you wanted us to be normal. I wanted to be normal, and look at you now. Is this what, Jess would have wanted? She died because of you. If you hadn't gone hunting. I really
like that. Yeah. I really liked the callback all the way to because it's one thing to have the mom in it, like, because she's a reoccurring character, but just to go all the way back to the beginning of why Sam is even in this at all is because kind of what happened to Jess, right? So just playing on all of his emotions and his reasoning for doing this in the first place. And little Sam's like, you've lost your way.
Yeah. And because the big Sam is making excuses. I mean, he's not making excuses, but he kind of is.
Yeah. To little Sam, he's like, well, tough titty, basically. Like,
grow up, kid.
Yeah. Life doesn't turn out the way you want sometimes.
Yeah.
Which, you're not wrong.
But then he comes around to, well, it's not my fault. I can't escape it. It's not all my fault because it was done to me. And in that moment, little Sam is like, yeah, maybe you can't. Maybe you can't escape it.
Blink, blink.
And
yellow eyes.
Blinks his eyes, and he's got yellow eyes. And my note was, yellow eyes is so far gone from the storyline that seeing little Sam blink and have demon yellow eyes, it didn't hit me as hard as it should have, I think, because he's so far gone from the storyline.
Yeah, he hasn't really been.
Yeah. So it wasn't like,
ooh. Yeah.
It was,
but it was Yellow Eyes who did that to him in the first place.
Yes.
And I think there's a reason that he's shown here.
Okay.
If you've seen the next episode.
Which I have.
Next one, or maybe it's the beginning of the fifth season, because I did not have any self-control after Sam gets locked up in the thing. I just said, nope. We're going.
Yeah.
Pour another glass of wine. We're going to keep going.
Yep.
It was this point that I noticed, like when he was talking to little Sam, I didn't notice it before, like when he's talking to Dean through the porthole in the door. Like, how after Sam went full like interview with the vampire and has that blood all over his face, like how did they not clean off his face? Like there's still blood all over his face.
Oh,
like,
was there?
It's not as bad as it was like when he came up out of that demon girl's neck. But there's still remnants like all over. Like
wow.
Like it's
because he did go right in. I mean,
well he was in a car ride. They were in a car ride for hours, right?
Yeah. But
he pulls up like a flying J with blood all over his face.
I honestly don't remember seeing it.
I didn't either.
Well, now I have to go back. Thanks, Charlie. So back upstairs, Dean and Bobby are still, not arguing, but talking about what are they going to do. And hey, if the apocalypse is here, where the hell are the angels?
Yeah, where's your angel pals?
Yeah, and you're going to trust what the angels tell you over.
Yeah, it's like, who do we trust? The angels or some demon bitch?
Right.
Like, that's kind of like the scale they have to weigh here.
Right. And what I love here in this moment is Bobby has a truth. He says the truth, and it's something we all know, but it's nice to hear him say it out loud as a grown man. He's like, I love him as a son, but maybe we love him too much. Yeah. That we're willing to let the apocalypse happen just to save Sam, or we're not letting him make his own decisions, because we love him so much. Even if we think it's the wrong decision, it could be the right decision for Sam. So why aren't we letting him make those decisions? I have this thing. I think that's one of my draws to Supernatural, is that grown men who can show emotion, not as in a blubbering emotion, but can actually admit that as men they have feelings for each other. You know, I love him like a son. Dean later says, I would kill myself in an instant, you know, or, you know, I'd sacrifice myself in an instant to save Sam. It's like, I appreciate those men having those emotions. I appreciate that. And I think Supernatural does a good job in showing those relationships without ulterior motive to those relationships.
Yeah, I thought the comment by Bobby was really good. Like, it really honed in that, I mean, he helped raise Sam. He helped raise Dean. Like, he helped train them, which later I have a comment on that seemed a little out of character for Bobby. But this really seemed to nail it home of, this is a family that's going through, like any other family with an addiction problem, only there's angels and demons and seals and stuff. So.
Yeah. But they're used to that kind of thing. So this is all par for the course, you know, basically. But now it's a drug addiction. But yeah, you're right. This is, I think, a common conversation that any family would have when it comes to a drug addiction. Maybe on, you know, various emotional levels, but I'm sure there's a lot of anger, there's a lot of hurt, there's a lot of love.
It's nice to see.
It's a complicated thing.
It's nice to see tough men not just like, you know, and brush it aside, but actually, you know, admit that there's strength in our relationship.
Back in the dungeon with Sam, his next hallucination is Mom.
I did not like Mom in this.
I didn't either. I didn't like it at all.
Yeah, like, I was like, the ridiculous, again, the stupid nightgown. I know why she's wearing
Charlie,
it.
we have a thing about this nightgown.
I know why she's wearing it.
Because women don't wear nightgowns like that. I don't know. Does your wife wear a nightgown? I don't want to say this if you
like Sammy and I grew up not far from Lawrence, where Mom died, and I don't know any women in Lawrence who have ever worn a nightgown like that was, you know, outside of like settler times or something. So
yes, that's what it is. It's like it's a little house on the prairie kind of nightgown.
So the fact that she's back, she's wearing that, and she has the weeping bloody wound on her stomach, which as a child he would not have seen. He was an infant. So this image of her is for us. Yeah. This is how we saw her last before she exploded into flames on the ceiling. So I think in this moment.
Now, Jess didn't have a wound like that, did she?
She did.
Okay, so maybe he's combining the two, like his memory.
He might be his memory and then like the memories that Dean
what Dad said.
Exactly, yeah. So it could have been that's probably what they told him. It was like, this is how we last saw her.
It's just a ridiculous image.
Oh, but he was in the nursery though. So maybe it is like a.
But he was an infant.
Powers, so.
Oh my God, you guys. I'm not gonna buy it on this one. It's not him, it's for us. It's for us to recognize Mom. She
says something to him about their family, and she's like, when they're talking about hardships here, and she says, you know, I come from a long line of hunters. Is that new information? Because I know that
no.
Dad is a hunter and like ran with hunters, but I guess I just missed that somehow.
You did, because there is an episode in this season where Cass takes Dean back in time, but he meets young John Winchester, who is completely oblivious about the hunting world. It was actually Mary, the mom, who came from the hunting background.
Yeah. Grandpa Mitch Pileggi from the X-Files.
Oh, okay.
That I did know he was in X-Files, actually.
I think I remember you guys talking about it on your episode.
Yeah.
Okay, I remember now.
And as far as we know now, Mary never told John about hunting. And it wasn't until after she died, he somehow found something out. I think he went to the psychic, Missouri, you know, the lovely Missouri, who then... She said something like, I peeled back the blinds for him or something. She implied that she was the one who introduced him into this world.
Okay, it's coming back a little bit now.
Yeah, but he knew nothing about hunting prior to Mary's death.
But Mary is playing, I think, a little bit of devil's advocate here, because she's saying to Sam, Dean is wrong. You are strong. It's Dean who's weak.
He's weak.
Yeah, and our family is cursed, but you can turn this curse into a gift. So she's saying all the things that Sam wants to say to himself to justify what he's doing, you know, and use this gift for justice and not revenge.
Right.
You know, it's like, tell yourself whatever you need.
Yeah. And now actually Sarah and Bob actually both said that this is a classic addict making excuses for himself. And there is that kind of this devil and angel thing going on with young Sammy being like, no, this is wrong. But then Sam choosing the things that he wants to hear, which is mom being like, I'm so proud of you. And you know, Sarah played with a lot of things, like maybe Yellow Eyes did actually show up like in these hallucinations, like maybe Yellow Eyes was one of them. Maybe mom would actually chastise him for that. But then Kripke was the one who's like, no, let's make it so she's
the one
like,
who's egging him on. Yeah. I mean, she strokes his hair, you know, she's giving him the motherly attention that he never got from her because she died.
And the drug, this blood, is doing whatever it can to keep you under its thumb and under its control.
But there are moments where Sam questions, you know, he is vulnerable. What if it's stronger than me? What if Dean is right? You know, he has those questions, but then mom comes right back and is like, you know, Dean is weak. Dean is terrified. He doesn't understand. And I want to say in this scene, Jared's acting phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal, because he's confused, he's vulnerable, he's scared, but he wants to be strong. He wants to be making the right decisions, but he's being bombarded by all the doubts that everyone has about themselves, whether they're an addict or not. And I think Jared did a really good job in ping-ponging between all of these emotions and just being overloaded by all of this. So I just want to, you know, hit the applause button there.
I really liked it. Like when he's talking to mom about, I know what you're going to say, you're disappointed that I'm a big fail, like all of these things, like you said, Val, like all of these things that we all think, we all have mom and dad issues, even if we have a great relationship with them, but I know you're disappointed. And then just to hear, no, like, right, is it like, and for theologically, I kind of wrote the devil's in the details, and like this advice, right? Like use this, you know, like use this curse to better for justice. Like that's exactly what he wanted to hear, but he probably couldn't hear it until he had really emptied himself and like, woe is me. And that's the perfect time as a drug addict or as anybody dealing with even depression. Like that's the perfect time to turn it around and go and double back down on your bad behavior, because you've got nothing else. Like
he's showing the pain, he's showing the guilt, he's showing the fear. You know,
it's
all
really
of that. You
feel it, really for sure.
Sarah and Bob both said Jared is so good at this kind of stuff. And I do like, right, as the scene was exiting into the next one, one of them said, poor guy, if only he had a mom and she didn't end up in the ceiling or something. It's like, way to break the tension.
Right.
Okay.
Whew.
Typical writer attitude.
Yeah, when they keep going back and forth on all of these like hallucinations and memories, it's like, are they retconning the story or are they just adjusting it right now so that you can see the character development happening? And it's like you said at the beginning, like it's very purposeful, like how discombobulating all of these scenes are, but it's just constantly just churning this emotion, positive and negative and sadness and grief and hope and despair, like all of it. Just it's a really good episode. Sometimes they're a little cheesy. It's really knocks out of the park most of this whole episode.
So one of the things I liked about how they transitioned out of each of these hallucinations is that Sam was confused every single time the hallucination ended, because he was so invested that the hallucination was real that when it stopped, he was so like, wait, where'd you go? Like, how did you leave the room so quickly? And I just thought that was so interesting that he was so confused because he was so into each and every hallucination. Mary
even when young Sammy even says, yeah, you're hallucinating right now.
Right.
He was still
he's still like, what?
And I think each hallucination gets worse for us too, because at first you're like, well, it's clearly because we know Alistair's dead.
Right.
And then like he's crazy,
not
he's
a
talking
kid.
to himself. And now he's talking to his dead mom. Maybe she's a ghost. And like they just keep building. And the one coming up soon is like, I didn't know what was going on.
I didn't either.
For a
I didn't
while.
either until they showed it. Okay, so our next scene is Dean in the scrapyard, which, by the way, director Bob Singer was like, I was so fucking happy to be outside finally.
Out of that teeny tiny room.
Yeah.
That stupid fan.
Yeah. Where Cass appears to Dean, or like Dean's line here to Cass, like, you just got ass reamed in heaven, and you like didn't not explaining yourself or something like that. But the ass reamed in heaven was chef's kiss.
Very Dean.
Yeah.
I also like just the look that Cass gives him, like,
Yeah.
Yeah, it was bad.
Yeah. So Dean's been praying for Cass for hours and nothing. And when Cass finally appears, and when he does finally show up, he's like, what?
What do you want me to do?
Want?
Yeah.
No, it wasn't what do you want me to do? It was what do you like? What? Like he had no time for Dean. This was such an inconvenience for him, and not flippant, but just, I'm here because you prayed, and that's what my job is as an angel. Is so Cass more of a dick than I think I've ever seen him be.
Yeah, I think Dean even points that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's not there because he got ass reamed in heaven and doesn't want to tell that story. He's there because of Sam. Like, Dean wants to know, is it true? Could Sam kill Lilith if we kept him going on his blood drinking path? And Cass is like, yeah.
Yeah. But if he does, he needs so much of this demon blood that it's going to change him. It's going to change him irreversibly, and he'll be the monster that you would hunt and kill.
The next thing you're going to want to, kill.
Oh,
so
the creature, the creature.
I just thought it was ironic to me that just a few seasons ago, like, Dean is in hell as a torturer, and now he's being asked in this scene to be God's handyman and work for the angels and take this, high church oath, and and then Sam is this, the golden child who's been separated from all of this growing up and is the one who's going to save everybody, and now he's the one that's on this path, like just the inverse of the brothers, and who they're attracted to too. Like, I liked that whole romantic interaction for Dean, like going after, because she was an angel, right? That he was interested
Anna,
in.
Anna,
yeah.
So he's interested in an angel, Dean's interested in a demon, like all of these things just constantly mixing, and the brothers taking turns being the bad guy and being the good guy. And
The angels, what Cass says to Dean is that the angels believe that it's Dean and not Sam who can stop the apocalypse. So Dean, are you up for it? But if you're up for it, that means you have to accept God and, be not only his right hand, but you have to be able to work with the angels.
Yeah, give himself wholly over to the service of God and to serve his will like he did his own father. And even Sarah here, it was like, there's Dean selling himself out. He sees how much of a performing monkey he was with his father.
Dad, yep.
But he does it for Sam.
I like that he says, I'll serve God and
you guys.
He doesn't.
How many episodes was it into the show when they confronted this idea of God? And Dean is just like, yeah, demons are real and ghosts and all of these other things, but God is like, come on, Sammy.
Okay.
And so now,
there actually was an episode. It was called, I forgot what it was called, but it was season 2.
Yeah, it was when the statues, wasn't that when Sam started believing in angels, and Dean was like, no.
Yeah, well, he had always been like a believer. He would pray, and Dean laughed at him for praying, and it was the ghost of a preacher.
He thought he was an avenging angel, is what the priest spirit thought he was an avenging angel.
Right.
And you know what's funny is the producing, like Kripke and all of them at this point were like, they were scared. It was like, are we going to go too religious? Is this going to piss people off? And Kripke's like, no, we're not doing anything else with like angels or God or anything. And then, exactly.
Screech. Here we go.
Yeah. So I think to answer your question, when it became, yes, it was real, was when we first saw Cass, and Cass was like, I am an angel of the Lord. So yes, that's when I would say Dean is confronted with the thought of God and angels for real and not as a bedtime story. Although I was always like, well, if hell exists in their world, he was living in hell for 40 years, why wouldn't God exist?
When I think too, it's coming on the heels of the last episode where we saw the toll that it took on what's the name of the man that Castiel is in his body?
Jimmy.
Oh, Jimmy.
Jimmy, yeah. Like Jimmy doesn't want it. Like he gives up prayer at the dinner table before the demons show up at his house, and just this huge toll of being chosen by God, and then willingly chooses so that he keeps his daughter out of the service of the Lord just because of how insane it is. So I mean, Dean saw all of this, and now Dean's like, yes, I'll do it. Right. So again, like you said at the beginning, just whatever he's willing to do to save Sam, even willing to be God's, or as I don't want to ruin it, but what Bobby says about being the angel's bitch, just perfect. Like you're willing to do that,
right? Right.
Yeah, and knowing what the cost actually is too.
Right.
So I want to point out another cool camera move. So in the junkyard scene, have Cass is saying, will you come on board? Dean says, yes, I'll do it. Now what? And Cass says, you wait. And it's not like you'll wait. It's like, you wait. We'll call on you and we'll use you. But he says, we wait. And then the camera does this, another overhead pullback shot. So, and they're left just looking at each other and waiting. And a part of me went, oh, this is a classic blooper, like, moment. Because
that's
because
totally what I would have done.
I can't imagine that Jensen would have let Misha finish a scene without trying to kill him in it, without trying to mess him up. And I didn't see it in any of the outtakes.
It's not. I watched the gag reel the other day,
and it's not there.
That's not.
But I was like, that would have been a perfect moment for Jensen to just get in Misha's face. And they did, and it was a beautiful pullback shot. So Sam, back in the panic room.
Yes.
Twitching.
Reading the Weekly Woodsman.
yes, all sorts of. But he looks at himself in the mirror and he's like twitching, and he starts to see like black veins like starting to appear across his hands, across his face. And he's like, oh my God, you guys.
Yeah. They said that was the visual effects people's idea, was to do that. Like they came to Sarah, it's like, oh, I think we should do this.
Looked cool.
I love the visual effects and how they like throw in their little things. Like
cool if we did this.
Like the one with Mystery Spot where they decapitated Jensen with the piano.
Oh, right.
I mean, it was like you really had to.
I didn't see it until you pointed it out, and I had to go back and watch it. And she had to watch me go back and watch it.
Behind the scenes.
Next, we see.
Now there's like more. Bobby and Dean about like, why are you trusting angels so we don't have to trust a demon? Why are you being the angel's bitch?
But like just all of this distrust, like I know we're gonna like there's something about Ruby that makes me not trust her, and it's not just because she's a demon. There's just something that she seems like she's hiding, and I can actually say that because I haven't gone further on. But just when he says, do you trust the angels? No, Bobby, I've never trusted them less. So there's like, it's kind of like what Bobby was saying, maybe we should release Sam saying maybe I should take the blood because it's practical to fight. Dean's practicality is maybe I should team up with the angels because this is the most practical thing to do. Like everybody's trying to be practical.
And get information at least, if you don't know, keep your enemies closer. But during all this, the screaming in the basement.
Wait, hold on, pause. I cannot believe that you missed this part. Dean throws out, and I don't know what it is. He does like the Star Trek line. It's like, this is like the politics of a Vulcan. Vulcan something.
They're like politicians from planet Vulcan.
Guys, stop writing that stuff down because I see your face every time I do it. So
I just want to point out that Sarah was like, I almost took it out because it was so random. But then I realized that anytime Dean has a Star Trek reference, it's in one of my scripts. So I have effectively turned Dean into a Trekkie.
All right. That's amazing.
Watching old episodes in the motel.
But I thought that was
I did love
funny.
Bobby's face when because he does take a second. Star Trek, really. He doesn't say it, but you see that on his face.
Bobby is me.
Bobby is me.
All right. I'm going back to it. I'm going to start bringing them up again. So after the Star Trek moment,
it's gone quiet.
It's gone quiet.
So now they're like, okay, that's really something we need to worry about.
Is that a little too much quiet? Or is that what he says? Something like that?
No.
So they run downstairs and they see Sam on the floor kind of twitching, and they're like, he's faking. And then from that moment, Sam suddenly is like teleported across the room and slammed up against the wall. And they're like, okay, not faking. That's not faking. So they unlock the door and they run in. They're able to rescue Sam from the wall where he's just being tossed around by what?
Right, the supernatural version of a seizure.
They're able to drag Sam off the wall and down to the floor, but he's still seizing. So Dean whips off his belt and, throws it into Sam's mouth to keep him from biting his tongue, which is what most people do, is put something in a seizing person's mouth to keep them from biting their tongue. And Bobby, in the meantime, is trying to, snap to Dean, like, what, we should tie him down. And I just want to point out again that Jared, in this moment, when they have him down on the floor, he's like, his face is purple. He is, I mean, as a performer, he's really struggling. And it actually made me scared because I have actor friends who say when they have to do these scenes, I think I've mentioned this before, that anytime you're doing a convulsion or a seizing scene or something like that, they have a specialist come in and teach you how to do it so you don't hurt yourself. And part of me was thinking, if you are stressing yourself so hard that you're turning your face purple, I'm like, that's going a level. That's
commitment.
that actually made me a little bit scared because he was really in it. I mean, that's stressful on your body where you can pop blood vessels, you can make yourself pass out. But anyway,
my question about this whole scene was even this part a hallucination? Because I told Sammy, like, I watched this episode maybe 3 times so I could be prepared. And every single time I was like, okay, this is really happening. Okay, it's not happening. And the thing that I'm on the fence about is maybe Sam imagines that he has a seizure because that's when Dean comes in, because the next scene is him and Dean talking. And he's explaining, hey, sorry, Sammy, we had to do it. So like maybe he was strapped down, but he wasn't strapped down. Like he wasn't handcuffed before though, right?
He was.
He was handcuffed before on the bed, like going through all of the...
He's handcuffed.
Prior to the seizure, he is not handcuffed.
Okay,
but
so
he
that
is
would answer the question.
After, but he is
that part was
after.
real. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I would say that part was real.
Yes. And also, since the camera or the viewpoint goes from Bobby and Dean above, and they come down and see him in that way. But I can't see why one would be confused or, wondering if it was, because as you said, in this next scene, it's Dean talking to Sam in a very normal way. Dean is still alive. Dean is in that house. There's an absolutely reasonable explanation why Dean would be in that room to talk to him.
And each hallucination gets more believable, like more deep. And they finally get to that level in this conversation, which is, I think, Sam's greatest fear. And so, like, for me, I was like, maybe his mind imagined this seizure,
right,
so that he could have this conversation with Dean, and he's thinking it's a real conversation.
Right.
I think the seizure got him to this hallucination.
That makes more sense now. Yeah.
Yes. Either way, something did happen where he was forced to be handcuffed to the bed.
A decision
not
was
by
made.
himself.
Yes, a decision was made, and he was handcuffed to the bed. My question was, and I looked this up and I couldn't find it, but when he's like being slammed against the wall, it's not just your typical slam the actor against the wall. He was like rolling across the wall, and I wrote down, I was like, was this a gimbal set? But I didn't find anywhere. I couldn't look up anywhere, find any details on how they actually shot that particular scene.
They didn't even say that on the commentary. They're just like, he did all his own stuff. That's all
yeah. So how do you roll yourself across a wall? That's anyway. So I was like, gimbal, but they didn't mention it. Anytime a show uses a gimbal set, they make a big to do about the mechanics that go into it. So I guess it wasn't. I guess they just did some sort of cabling.
I don't think in that room it would have been possible, right? It was so small.
Well, they would have had to build the room onto a gimbal.
Yeah, I don't think that they did that.
I don't think they did that.
So in this Dean hallucination, which takes a while to realize that it's a hallucination, he's kind. He's like, sorry, man, we had to, like, the demon blood was flinging you everywhere. We had to strap you down. But then he kind of becomes an asshole.
Dick Dean.
Dick Dean. He's rubbing it in. Yes, very believable.
Could still be Dean. Yeah, who knows?
He's rubbing it in Sam's face that God picked him. It's not Sam's job. It's
my job.
It's my job. I am God's favorite. He doesn't say those words exactly, but I think that's how Sam is taking it.
It's my job to kill Lilith.
It's my job, and and then he turns even dickier. Dickier. It's like, you've always felt different, haven't you? And that's not just because of our weird family. It's because you've always been a monster. And then it's just monster. You're a monster. You're a monster. Don't call me a monster.
Yes. But in the meantime, upstairs, Bobby and Dean are still talking, and that maybe this intervention is killing him. And we need to stop killing him. But Dean is like, no, I'd rather him be dead. I'd rather this clean him and clear him than have him turn into something.
Because at least he die human, right? So
yes, exactly.
It's a rough take.
To me, it was kind of a good callback. I know I'm going back an episode, but when he is talking to Sam, and he's like, did you lose your mojo? Like, and you guys hit on this too. Like, Dean is happy to let Sam be evil as long as it suits his interests, and they win the day. But this is kind of a turning point. Like, Dean is willing to let Sam die to not let him go back down this road anymore.
Yeah.
And so something in Dean has shifted, that he's no longer willing to use this weapon, to no longer use this evil, because it's going to take his brother and make him into a monster. And like, that to me was like a big moment of this episode, like seeing Dean's actual decision to, we're not going to entertain that anymore. Like, Bobby, this, no more discussion. Like, he'll die, but at least he'll die human. He'll die my brother and not a monster. So I thought that was really pretty powerful.
Yes, I agree.
I'm just looking at my notes that just says, you're a monster, you're a monster, you're a monster.
Yeah, there's a lot of monster, because upstairs Dean is like, I don't want him to be a monster, and then Vision Dean is like, you are a monster.
Yeah.
We're not even the same species, and you're nothing to me. And that's what breaks Sam, and that's what broke me. And I know it was a real Dean, but it was still like,
yes,
that's what Sam has been like hearing that whole time. Every time he's been hearing, you're a freak, and you're poisoning yourself and you're being a monster. What are you doing, aligning yourself with the demon?
And don't you say that to me, which means that I think he was hearing John say that, which is what he got from his dad. Not that you're a monster, but that you're nothing.
Sarah was like, what a relief to finally write all of this monster stuff, because this is what the storyline had been alluding to since season 2. Sam begging to be killed if he turns into a monster, and Dad's instruction to Dean before he died to, like, if he gets bad, you're probably gonna have to kill him. But up until this point, it's kind of all been theoretical. It didn't go the speed that it was intended to because of the strike for season 3. I think they wanted to get to this point in season 3, but
strike.
Yeah. So she's like, oh, thank God, we finally, like, it's out there now. Like, it's out of their mouths. It's happening.
I alluded to this earlier in the scene where Sam is by himself but hallucinating in the dungeon. He is a giant man, but he is sitting on this teeny tiny cot, but he looks so small and so alone in this room. And it was one of those like high above shots that
is that like a lens thing? So in your guys' expert opinion, is that just the way the lens is coming off, or just the distance? Or did they get an oversized bed for a small room? Like,
no, I think practically everything was of size. It's just that Jared is a tall man. I just think that they used the height, what they had in the room, they used. Because the camera wasn't so far away that he just looked like he was far away in the room. It just, because they chose
it was whatever type of
shot,
quote unquote crane shot they were using,
that it just allowed, we could see the walls of the room and we could see how close they were to Sam with the devil's trap under him. It was just, nothing was big, it just was small. But even for a big man, he looked small and alone in the room. And it could have just been his posture, because he was just sitting on the bed with his legs in front of him, which was this defeated small posture. And whatever effect they used, whether it was lenses or whatever, I don't think it was. I think it was just the height of the room in a cool uncrane shot that again, with Jared and his acting, was phenomenal.
Yeah.
He was so alone in a teeny tiny room.
Yeah. And then we transition because we're no longer in the small room because Sam is sitting there, or laying there rather, and all of a sudden his cuffs pop open on his hands and his feet. The door unlocks. He says hello a couple of times before he says, fuck it, I'm bolting, you know?
Yeah. And we can hear like that slight high-pitched noise, like there's something supernatural happening here.
Yeah,
Obviously,
it was that X-Files noise. It was, I made a note to be like, that kind of like, it's like a little clanking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah, but fuck it, I don't care, I'm
Yep,
going.
I'm out.
And then we see a little shifty Cass over off to the side.
Yep, who watches Sam leave. And then like does the finger wave, I'm making something magically happen move.
Bob said, seems an odd use of his power since he's only about 5 feet from the door, but okay.
He could have just shut it himself.
Angels are lazy sometimes, yeah.
But yeah,
totally, they're lazy.
The door closes by itself and then locks by itself, except it's Cass who is like magically making it happen. So at a factory later, by the water on a dock, we see Cass kind of looking out over the water, lost in thought. And he turns to see Anna, who has, whooshed in.
Yeah, she's like, oh my God, I can't believe that you let Sam go. What were you thinking? Oh my God. But it turns out Cass has set her up.
And then whoosh to what did they call the demons in the previous episode? Like
stunt demon number 3.
Yes. So like stunt angels 2 and 3 show up and grab Anna and then whoosh her away. So she's gone in a flash of bright light. So we don't really know what happened. I'm assuming they just took her up to angel heaven.
Up to that like re-education place.
Yes,
or whatever.
exactly, to get an ass reaming of her own. And Cass doesn't seem at all moved by it. He's not like, oh gosh, Anna, geez, no. He's like, done. Check that off my list. He turns and goes back to looking out wistfully over the water.
He also kind of doesn't look like anything brings him joy. Like he helps Sam get out. Nothing that didn't seem to bring him joy. Like talking to Dean, getting Dean on God's side, that didn't bring him joy.
No,
Anna is going to go face judgment and hopefully get back on board on the program. That didn't bring him joy. Like everything, he just seems empty. Like he's just over all of this whole, like, we're going to stop the apocalypse, but
Sam, who hasn't made it very far outside in his weakened condition, is trying to steal a car.
Yeah, he's trying to steal one of Bobby's cars, but because he sneaks past some sleepy boys, like the Bobby and the
drunken boys.
Dean,
they have been drinking. Yeah,
yes. But Bobby is with it enough that he must have heard some